The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. I'm Debra Hutchison. Our guest this week is Oshawa Mayor Dan Carter. Great to see you again. Always a great time having you on the show.
Thanks, Deb. It's great to be able to see you too. And I hope you and your family are doing well. I had the COVID experience. I hope you don't get the COVID experience. Let's put it that way.
Knock wood, I'm good so far. And now that I've done that, that's it. I've cursed myself.
No, you won't get it.
But Dan, you said you're triple vaxxed.
Yeah.
And it hit you hard, not the rest of the family in your house hard, thank goodness, but it hit you really hard. Hit
me really hard. The bad headaches, the exhaustion, the fever, really, really bad. I had it bad for about 8 days. Paula and Paul, they seemed to get a small dose of it, but nothing to the extreme that I went through. Just different systems, different ways. I mean, I've had the 3 doses, and thank goodness I had them, because I can't imagine getting it without the vaccines. For me, anyways, I feel good. I had said to you, I got that in March, just around March break. And I was just back on the elliptical last week for the first time. And I'm usually on the elliptical at least 5 times a week. I couldn't breathe. I had to go on puffers, and it was an uncomfortable experience, but I survived, and I'm now a testament to good health and making sure you get your vaccine. So please get your vaccinations.
Can you imagine if you hadn't?
No.
Right?
No. Yeah, especially on the breathing side, Deb, because I've been a marathon runner for years, and now I'm on, like I say, on the elliptical 5 times a week. I consider myself in good cardio condition, and I had a hard time breathing. So I feel bad for anybody that had it in the early days without the vaccines. I can imagine how difficult it must have been.
And you did not end up in the hospital. Once again, a success story, right?
Very, very
yeah.
lucky. Yeah.
Well, we're glad to see you back, and obviously in full vim and vigor. You are looking and sounding right back to normal.
I'm really optimistic. I've been very optimistic, not only coming out of COVID, but I'm really optimistic of getting back to having an opportunity to be with one another, being part of public events. As you know, my State of the Union was just recently, and it was about embracing the future together. It was nice to be around other people. We're social animals. We're social people. It's hard for us to be isolationists. You could just feel the optimism start to lift up. Spring is here. People are feeling better. The sun is coming out. The temperatures are warming up. We've had some great news in the city of Oshawa. So a lot of things are aligning, and I'm very optimistic for 2022 and onward.
You're a very optimistic person by nature, though, Dan, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And I have to be that way because of the reason that I truly believe that we accomplish more with light than darkness. And that's just my opinion. I think we're always going to have challenges. We're always going to be faced with hard decisions. But when we look at things optimistically, I think it always means that we're moving forward, that we're looking for the next answer, the next solution, the next idea that is going to be able to be part of the solution. If you stay in darkness, I think what happens is that can engulf you, and you can really become overwhelmed by it. So I'm more so about, it's a bad day today, or I had a bad day today, but tomorrow's going to be better. And I'll be absolutely honest with you. I've got some good people around me, great staff, great members of council, and of course, my partner in life, Paula. She really helps me put things into perspective, recharge my batteries, and get me back out there again.
Speaking of good news, let's talk about the recent GM Canada announcement adding light-duty pickup production and a 3rd shift at the Oshawa assembly plant. Thousands of additional jobs coming to Oshawa.
It's incredible. Deb, you interviewed me just days after I was elected as the 32nd mayor of the great city of Oshawa. We were informed at that time about the end of the assembly line here in Oshawa, the impact of 2,500 jobs directly, and then thousands of jobs indirectly. We worked hard with, I want to take the opportunity to thank Steve Carlisle, of course, the Vice President of General Motors North America, of course, Scott Bell, the previous president of General Motors, Travis Hess, of course, David Patterson that we're partners with, and Unifor. And all of us worked together in regards to what had transpired in regards to the decision that General Motors made in the early days. And now the revitalization of Oshawa and the plant. 800 more jobs, 2,600 people on the assembly line, new product coming. You're seeing it all over the city that a lot of production is up and running. We're starting to ship a lot of that product out. It's selling well across North America. But I'm excited about what they're talking about. They're talking about that conversion from combustion engine to electrification. We've got the test track. They got the Bright Drop initiative that is the cargo van initiative that they're undertaking in Ingersoll. I'm just really excited about it. And here's one of the wonderful stories out of Oshawa too is almost 60% of the workforce on the assembly line are females. It's changed the culture. It's changed how they do business. It's changed how new ideas and concepts are coming. This is a really exciting time for the transportation industry, the automobile industry, and the assembly industry. And I think Oshawa will be on the leading edge for many, many years. Think about it. $1.3 billion has already been spent. We had $170 million for the test track. We now have 800 more jobs and $236 more million. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very optimistic about the transportation business, and I'm very optimistic about our partnership with General Motors as we move forward.
You mentioned an awful lot of names there when you were thanking those who had, really worked together to make this happen. Yeah. I think the public doesn't really see what goes on behind the scenes and the amount of negotiations and meeting and working together. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was very purposeful about was I understood the anger, frustration, and fear that the public had felt in the early days of the announcement by General Motors. The one thing that I was very cautious about was my own comments and the way that I communicated through the national media. One is I always said that I believe that the future of the transportation industry is bright in Oshawa. I also said that I believe that we have the workforce to be able to give a competitive edge to General Motors over other manufacturers. And I stood by those comments all the way through. I had to struggle personally about why was this decision made and understand it. So those meetings with General Motors is saying, why did you make this decision? What is it about the business model that didn't work? What do we need to do here in Oshawa, both on the regional, provincial, and federal side, to change the equation so the business model works? How do we keep these conversations going? And you said off the top of the show, I'm an optimist. So I went into these meetings with an optimistic tone and always looking at, so what else could we look at? What other things could happen? Through the work of both Unifor and the executives at General Motors, and of course, we played a small part along with our provincial and federal partners. It was a starting point where we could say, okay, so the first step was, of course, the parts division that had about 300 members there. The second investment came with the $170 million of the test track and seeing that build on. And we just kept the conversations going, and we kept on saying, what else? What else? We were lucky that Steve Carlisle started in Oshawa, worked his way up, now is the North American vice president. We had people that really understood the workforce here and the innovation that happened here. And we were lucky that we had ambassadors going to Detroit to be able to carry our message forward. But it was weekly calls. It was weekly conversations. It was, getting the right messaging out, continuing to lobby both on the provincial and federal side, and continuing to stay in a way that we truly believe that we had a future in the automobile industry. At the same time, we work with our post-secondary educational partners to see what other kind of synergies could work well with General Motors, and really understood that they were going through a transformation. They were going from combustion engine to electric engines. They were going from auto assembly to a technical company and design company. We were looking at transportation in a different light. And I think that all of those components came together, Deb. And I think what happened was it gave all of those that could make the decisions another reason to make the decision. And I think that with the help of Unifor, with General Motors, the city of Oshawa, the region of Durham, our provincial and federal governments, we now have 2,600 people working out of our plant. And I'm excited about all of the opportunities that come from those investments.
So obviously all the hard work has paid off. It didn't happen all on its own, right?
And there's a lot of credit to go to a lot of different people. A lot of people played an important role in their lane. and it all came together. It wasn't just one individual that gets all the credit. It was many different people that were part of it. And that's why I never like to just kind of say, oh, well, it was, it was all the city. No, it was everybody at the table that brought something to the table. And what happened was, by the end of the day, we found solutions to work together, and we got those investments.
Okay, I want to move on. You recently had a political blind date on a major TV network. Yourself and
Patrick Brown
discussing the homeless issue on TV Ontario.
It was a great series. It did air on TV Ontario. It's the very first blind date I've ever been on, by the way, just to let you know. So that was unusual, but it was a good program. We talked about what we were doing here in Oshawa, and I got a chance to be able to talk about not only the struggles that we were facing, the complexities of those that are suffering in our community, and matter of fact, across our country, but also what are those unique initiatives that we've got. We were able to show them the microhome project that Oshawa is the first to be able to have the microhome project out of all of Durham Region. I was able to show them the hub, the first in Oshawa to be able to do that. I was able to show them the first in regards to our outreach teams with our PCOP and our Welcoming Streets program, our partnerships along with John Howard Society, Salvation Army, Carrier Community Health Center, and other agencies. So we had a really good opportunity to showcase what we were doing. And we also talked about the importance of our faith communities and what role they played. We have the spirit of service here in Oshawa that I put together with our faith leaders back in 2018, December. And when I went to Brampton, he showed me his community and what they were doing uniquely. And I think we learned from both one another. And it was a great series to be a part of. I was very grateful that I had the chance to do it. And I learned a great deal out of where new opportunities may exist. And Patrick learned where new opportunities may exist that he's not implementing in his community. So it was a great success.
What is something you learned from what they're doing in Brampton that perhaps you can take back here to Oshawa?
It was interesting to see the relationship and the leadership that the faith community is taking in his community. The Sikh community really has a place of, you can get service 24 hours a day, food, housing, whatever. It's put on by the faith community. And it's a really amazing thing to see how this one faith community came together with volunteers, with resources. It was just incredible. He also had another organization that I saw that worked really well called the Knights Table. And it was just really fascinating to see how his faith community, and his community is very diverse. 70% is very diverse in his community, but that connection with the faith community and the role that they played also gave me an insight in regards to what other steps I need to take with our faith community and trying to get them engaged in regards to it. We're lucky. We've got a great relationship with our Muslim community, our faith communities here, and we need to just keep on building on it. Patrick's done a great job in regards to that.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
More of our conversation with Oshawa Mayor Dan Carter after this. Bye-bye.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Operation Smile, alongside our medical volunteers, provides safe cleft surgery to children free of charge thanks to generous donors like you. That was until we fell into a pandemic.
If you only knew what I'm going.
By December, tens of thousands more children will be waiting for surgery. Please help us keep our promise and deliver smiles to children in need when surgeries resume.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Van Bilsen for Photos and Travel, where we bring the world to your doorstep. Traveling during this pandemic is virtually at a standstill. However, thanks to Rogers and YouTube, my new show Photos and Travel is heading into its second season. Join me for a new episode every month when we get together and explore exotic locales around the world. Check local listings for dates and times, or search Jonathan Van Bilsen's Photos and Travel on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Allison. Coming up on the next parenting show, we're talking about managing kids and tech.
Everybody needs some guidelines. We'll show you how to set them.
And that's only on Rogers TV.
This is Rogers TV.
And welcome back to Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Oshawa Mayor Dan Carter. Dan, when we went to break, we were talking about homelessness in Oshawa and everything you have done to help those who find themselves in that situation. One of the best organizations that has been on top of this throughout the pandemic has been the Backdoor Mission, which was basically a collaboration of a number of organizations that had all come together to provide food, medical care, whatever they needed. And their funding, from what I'm reading now, abruptly stopped.
So the Backdoor Mission is still being provided funds by the region for their operation. A component of the services that they're providing, which is healthcare services, that is where we've been in conversation with Minister Tobolo and the provincial government. The funding stopped and we were not aware of it. Nobody was aware of it, that it ended March 31st. And everybody kind of went, wait a second here. And it's the healthcare component that the funding hasn't been allocated. We're working through that. The provincial government has come to the table. I know meetings, matter of fact, on Wednesday with the minister were very successful. I feel confident that those services are going to be provided. Backdoor Mission provides not just meal and clothing, transportation, Ontario Works coordinators. They've got a Suboxone program. They've got an opportunity to see a doctor, a nurse, an addiction specialist. They have a lot of services that are very unique in regards to the most vulnerable. It plays an important role in making sure that we navigate the system to get people into the right pathways of care. And this funding for these positions is really, really important. I'm confident that within days of you and I speaking, I'm confident that the funding will be there from the province. It is provincially funded. It's not regionally or city funded. And I'm convinced that Minister Tobolo and his staff understand the importance of it. And I'm confident that the funding will be returned. And I'm hoping that we won't ever face this kind of hurdle again.
Okay. I want to ask you about downtown recovery, of course.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's downtown and the local shops, the small business owners, just devastated by this pandemic. Are we slowly seeing the doors reopening again? How would you describe the recovery process?
Believe it or not, in Oshawa, in our downtown, we have net new businesses in our downtown, which is really great news. Street Momo, by the way, if you haven't tried their food, you got to try their food. It's incredible. So our downtown really represents entertainment, education, and culinary. It really has that wonderful mix. So we're seeing a revitalization of our downtown. We still have some construction projects that are going on. King and Simcoe, that of course is Alexa Kaufman and her group that are redeveloping that site. We're excited about seeing what will come out of there. We're seeing the redevelopment, of course, of many of the older stores being revitalized and redeveloped. So we're really glad about that. I can let you know that we've got 80 bond, that $110 million investment is coming to completion. And we'll have 1,000 new residents living downtown. We got 70 King, which is the old Janosh. They're also excited. Their building is fully occupied except for the commercial space, and they're dealing with some AAA tenants in regards to opportunities there. And the Janosh and the Summers Group just came to us to talk about utilizing, they want to put another 21-story building in downtown Oshawa with a bridge across Mary Street to the parking garage. So we're excited about those kind of things. We have another 700 units that'll be built on William Street. And here's some good news for you. You'll be one of the first to know this is the city of Oshawa has been able to obtain the corner of Simcoe and Bond, the northeast corner. That's an old dilapidated parking lot. We've been able to grab that, and we will be redeveloping it with a brand new downtown park. and it'll tie really into the armories, it'll tie into our downtown, it'll tie into the residential area. And so we're really excited about that. So we've seen slowly but surely, small business and entrepreneurs are coming back in the downtown. We'd like to continue to see that success moving forward. We're working with the Greater Oshawa Chamber of Commerce and Jason King. We're working with DOBA, which is the Downtown Oshawa Business Association, to really continue to work with that. And our economic development director, Haley Wright, is doing a tremendous job with her team. So I'm excited about what we're seeing as the revitalization of our downtown. You're going to see a lot more residential development in the downtown, which means more shops and more services are needed to be able to meet the demands of our new residents. So I'm excited about it. We're always going to have challenges. Downtowns have challenges, but be optimistic because I think we're seeing good signs of investment coming into our city.
It takes an awful lot of guts to open a business during a pandemic, whether it's the first wave, fourth wave, now sixth wave.
Yeah, especially when you're in the culinary business.
Yeah.
You need 70% of your tables occupied to be successful. You know, you've got takeout, but you've got to have those people sitting at tables. So being in the culinary industry, that's a real important part of making sure that, you know, that you're able to meet the needs of the community. But at the same time, you're right. It's a leap of faith. That's why the Mayor's Economic Recovery Task Force was so important. Understand what was happening on the ground, understand what changes needed to happen municipally, what we needed to lobby the provincial government for to make sure those voices were heard. I think that helped us in the recovery. We still are in the very early moments of recovery. We still have a long way to go.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. And speaking of amazing, the city's, I like that segue, Dan. So
that was good.
The city's
prepared to be amazed.
Yeah, that's your motto. Prepare to be amazed.
Yeah.
I'm reading that you're thinking of changing it. It's time for a change. Is it?
Well, there's two thought processes. Is it the right motto for our city that has become so diverse, modernized, and really innovative? And number two is there's another thought process is you should find a brand and stick with it and really kind of live up to that statement. So council wanted staff to undertake what would it take to be able to look at changing our branding. We're going through that process to look at it, but it's a 2-year process, Deb. It's a lot of public input. It's a lot of stakeholder input. I think that we have some other issues that really need to be addressed. And I think that that's what we should be really focusing on at this time. But you never know where that debate may end up. But I think we're a couple of years away from any change of any kind of slogan.
Okay. Now I have to ask you, we're rapidly running out of time here. But I want to ask you about, we've got an election in October, another municipal election. Will Dan Carter be on the ballot?
Dan Carter will be on the ballot coming up in the next election. I'd like the opportunity, even though that I look at our administration as been an administration that has been challenged more so than any other administration, I guess, since about 1945. We've really faced a lot of different things. We've faced, the loss of jobs through the auto industry. We've seen a pandemic that none of us have ever lived through before. We've seen our economy change dramatically. We've seen the diversification and growth of our city. We've seen a lot of change happen in our city. I want to be able to take the opportunity to not only defend the decisions that we made as a council and I as a mayor, but I also want to talk about what we've accomplished through that period of time. In the early part of the 2000s, we had the worst finances in all of Durham Region. As a matter of fact, one of the worst in Ontario. We are now in the upper echelon. We've paid debt down, we've built our reserves, and we've invested in our capital. That's a huge accomplishment that we've undertaken, even through a pandemic. We've had the lowest tax impact on residents. We have now other neighboring municipalities to the west all have higher taxes than the city of Oshawa. We are seeing the affordability aspect of our community continue to grow. And I'm really proud of those things. I'm proud of our staff and our community. I am so proud of our community about how the last 24 months of this pandemic, they came together to be able to meet the challenges of the time. And I want to be able to have the opportunity to tell that story. I know that there'll be individuals out there that want to work on fear and anger. I'm not going to work on that. I'm going to talk about where we are, what we've accomplished, and where we're going. And I think that great cities do that. And I'm proud that I've had this opportunity. I hope I get another opportunity to serve as the mayor of the great city of Oshawa. And if I get that opportunity, I'm a blessed man. But I've already been blessed because you gave me this term to show my stuff.
We have talked about the stress that all elected officials have had to endure over the last term and over the last 2 years, particularly with of course, the pandemic. We're seeing Scugog Mayor Bobby Drew deciding not to run again. More recently, we heard that Whitby Mayor Don Mitchell has decided not to run again.
Yeah.
So it does take its toll on your family life and on your health, I would think.
It does. And what has happened through the pandemic, there has been a huge division. And there is those that have been trying to promote anger and fear. And what's happened is there has been a lot of division that has happened in our country. And as a municipal representative, many times we're the most accessible. And so therefore, a lot of us take that. Most of us sleep at the side of our bed with 2 cell phones that are on 24 hours a day. This job is 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. All of us come into public service to serve our community with the gifts, the talents, the education, and the desire to do the right things. And I think that all of us want to do a great job. But it is a different time to be an elected official. And I think that I have to respect those that have both served and those that are deciding not to serve again. But I'm going to miss some really talented, gifted individuals. And you've already mentioned a couple.
Okay. And on that, we are out of time. Do you believe it?
I talk way too much.
No, you don't. And we're going to have to get you back here in front of the camera again because we still have more to talk about. Dan Carter, once again, thanks so much for joining us.
It's always a pleasure, Deb. All the best.
And thanks to you, our viewers, for joining us. Until next time, I'm Debra Hutchison. Stay safe, everyone.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Send them home. Get rid of them. Gentlemen, please.
And so, this organ, which I regret I cannot name because of the presence of these members of the weaker sex, who, although they are married, could not possibly endure...
Get them out.
Patience, Ginny. Patience.
Get them out!
Dr. McFarlane!
Mrs. Trout.
There's no place for women in a medical school. Get them out!
If you do not bring this classroom under control, I am going to repeat every word of this disgusting lecture to your charming wife.
My friend Jenny Trout was not the only woman to face this kind of thing in medical school. But she would become the first woman licensed to practice medicine in Canada.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or